Okay, so, alright. Tyrion VI from A Storm of Swords. I love it how Tyrion in this novel is constantly having to face a different challenge in every chapter. The man has been a busy bee, get married in a cringiest wedding ceremony, tried to get the harbor back in shape, turned Simon Silvertongue into a stew, singer stew, thanks to Bron's, body disposal network. Go over the accounting books to try and somehow find the money to pay for the port reconstruction, not to mention for the costliest and frankly tackiest wedding Westeros has seen in decades. Royal wedding, no less, and then welcoming 300 and so Dornishmen to King's Landing, one of them being none other than the hot-headed Prince Oberyn Martell. Oberyn. That's how I'll try to pronounce it. You see, I tend to have this Dornish accent. Excuse me. Oberyn Martell, who is in town for more than just a few nibbles at a wedding reception, I tell you. He's actually after justice. That's what he wants to see served. Justice/revenge for his sister. And there's no fooling this guy. He knows that Tywin Lannister's fingerprints are all over that heinous act that took place nearly 17 years ago. And I should probably mention that the man is a poison expert. He got his master's degree in poisons from the Citadel, no less. I'm just saying that for no reason in particular, as I'm sure George R. R. Martin also planted that information there for no reason. Not to mention that the very presence of these Dornishmen is raising the tension in town, The Tyrells being all pissy about it, skirmishes taking place all over town, and Lady Olenna, and in this case I'm going to pronounce Olenna, that's in the proper Tyrell Russian accent. Lady Olenna, aka the Queen of Thorns, who can't help blurting out unkind comments at the expenses of Oberyn and his paramour, Elaria Sand. Yeah, things are tense indeed. And speaking of challenges, dear Tyrion, you haven't seen anything yet. Let me tell you. But right now we're looking at scenes from a marriage, really, kind of like the Ingmar Bergman movie, which was actually a mini-series initially, or so I'm told. But as for the film, it's a film that explores the dreadful disintegration of a marriage, of a couple where both parties have got nothing to say to each other, which is kind of where Tyrion and Sansa are at right now, commenting on how overcooked the peas are they're having for lunch, and him going, "There was never mind how overcooked the peas are. Why are they spelt with an E at the end? That's what I want to know." They don't really have that many topics of conversation. "Oh, the peas are overcooked. I'm so sorry, my dear lord and husband." She's just performing, the etiquette, the courtesies, and he's trying to get closer to her, in a true sense, face to face, never mind, look, it's all right, the peas, are not your area, not your province. I do wish you and I had a real dialogue. And if the chances of real dialogue between these two look, shall we say, a bit impeded at the moment, wait until she receives the news of what happened back in chapter 51, also known as Catelyn VII, also known as Catelyn's last and final POV chapter, also known as the Red Wedding chapter. Dun dun dun. Yeah, wait until Sansa gets news of that. Anyway, so yeah, At that point, forget about the peas, forget about the mutton. At that point, Sansa excuses herself because she wants to go to the old God's Wood for a bit of an old prayer, ostensibly. And at that point, Tyrion even ventures more out of politeness than anything else, because he's never been like a very religious man, more like a spiritual man. And but he says, dear Sansita, yeah, that's what I'm gonna call you today, if you don't mind. Do you know what? Okay, I don't do a very good Peter Dinklage, which I think modelled his own accent on Eddie Izzard. This is my theory, but yeah, once I realized that, I couldn't unhear it. Anyway, so here I go. Do you know, Sansita? Yes, that's what I'll call you today. Do you know what? I have half a mind of joining you in the God's Wood. Huh? Since I am not well versed in this all God's religion type thing of yours, I might learn something, Yeah, no, that was a rubbish Peter Dinklage impression. I'm sorry, but anyway, no. Sansa does her best not to show how terrified she is at the prospect of Tyrion joining her in the Godswood, because, unbeknownst to Tyrion, but knownst to us readers, Sansa does not hang around the Godswood, there's only one, exclusively for praying, but she is still having regular meetings with Dontos, the drunken knight who got demoted into court jester, who then became a knight again, in Sansa's eyes anyway, a knight in shining armor, you might say, because he keeps promising to her that he will whisk her out of King's Landing and off to safety on a ship that will be ready on a specific day, and all details have been arranged and everything. It's just out of one of those fairy tales Sansa is so fond of. Although we readers should know better, because we should know that this Dontos guy isn't entirely trustworthy, isn't it? Is it? And I'm not just talking about the fact that he's a bit too fond of wine, and he's likely to blurt out info, vital info down at the pub. But remember, but let's go back to something. I'm not talking about something unintentional here. I'm talking about something quite deliberate, actually, because remembering in Tyrion III, when Uncle Kevin Lannister said, it was one of those small council meetings, and Kevin said, yeah, that Lord Baelish, oh, God bless him, that Lord Baelish, a.k.a. Littlefinger, he's a heck of a nice guy, isn't it? Yeah, so loyal and all, He even told us of a certain Tyrell plot to take Sansa to Highgarden. Ostensibly on a tourist visa, but we know better, because actually the plan, the Tyrell plot, is actually to marry her to Lord Mace's eldest son, Willas, who will then potentially become, he would then potentially become Lord of Highgarden and Winterfell under our very noses. And that was a great moment for us readers, that small council revelation dropped there casually by Kevin Lannister, because it was a great moment for us to start connecting some dots, because I don't know if you remember, but Sansa didn't tell anyone about this plot, and certainly none of the Tyrells spilled the beans, because that plan was a closely guarded secret. So how exactly did Littlefinger learn of that Tyrell plan? Oh, wait here. Actually, Sansa did tell someone. She told a certain Dontos. Aha! So this is what I'm saying. If you were wondering whether Dontos was acting on his own accord or whether he was actually on someone's payroll, well, I guess we must wonder no more, huh? In fact, okay, Sansa is blameless here. I mean, she didn't have access to that information. It's not like she was allowed to attend the small council. You know, I know that Sansa gets a lot of what do you call it, flack for like, oh, she's so clueless. But she's so clueless because she doesn't have access to. She only has access to unsubstantiated hearsay and gossip. That's you know, that's her kind of a sort of like a network, and that's about it. But yeah, because if Sansa had gotten that piece of information, that, you know what, I'll tell you what, Sansa, the small council is very well aware of this Tyrell plot to basically abduct you, take you to Highgarden and get you to marry Willas Tyrell. The small council somehow knows about it, and she would have figured out that Dontos is the very reason why she now finds herself married to Tyrion. Huh? You trust Dontos and you find yourself married pronto. Ha ha. Yeah, sorry, I guess it's the best I can do at this time of the day. But yeah, that's the deal. Yeah, because that marriage was hasty marriage, to quote from Hamlet, was arranged precisely to thwart, to sabotage the Tyrell plan. Hence, scenes from a disintegrating marriage, which we just witnessed earlier on with the peas and the mutton. Anyway, enough about Sansa, because this is a Tyrion chapter. Don't let me forget that. So let's get on with it, and where are my manners? Indeed. Welcome, dear listener, to my rambling commentaries of A Song of Ice and Fire. We are reading A Storm of Swords chapter by chapter right now, and as I said at the start, we are sinking our teeth into chapter 53, Tyrion VI. There. So that's all we need to know. Still, I said let's get back to Tyrion, but that doesn't mean we'll be straying too far from Littlefinger, because what Tyrion does next in this chapter, as soon as his better half is out the door, is trying to figure out what the hell Mr. Baelish, actually Lord Baelish, what the hell he's been doing with the royal finances, cooking the accountancy books, creating money out of thin air, when in fact a lot of that gold is in the form of loans, among other investments. Loans that can never be repaid because those debtors have been, are you ready for that? Catapulted out of the city at Joffrey's orders. That's right. Something about being disloyal to the crown in times of war. You know, being part of a faction known as Antler Men. Why Antler Men anyway? Why they call themselves that? Because they consider themselves true Baratheon supporters, you know, and disowned Joffrey as true and legitimate heir to the crown, to the throne. But more importantly, did the Antler Men even exist, or were they a figment of Varys' imagination? I mean, the people who ended up launched out of the city on a catapult, yes, who also happened to be indebted with the crown, maybe, maybe not. Those people were real, but were they really part of a secret society known as Antler Men? If such a society even existed, or were they part of that society, but didn't really owe a single penny to the crown, and it was all or both, or neither? Because, you know, it's pretty easy in this society, in this universe, to just slander some guy and suddenly he'll find himself catapulted in the air. Recourse to justice not really being a thing, you know, unless you're highborn. And even then, as we shall learn in Cersei's storyline in the next book, and indeed in this one, when a certain character goes to trial. Whoops, I forgot to relay my spoiler policy. None. There it is. In these commentaries, I'll try to keep the things spoiler-free, in the off chance that you, dear listener, might be a first-time reader, so whatever reference I might make to other chapters in this series, it will be references to past chapters and not future ones. In other words, I'll be looking back and not ahead. Well, maybe just until the end of this chapter here, which I'll assume you have read already, huh? Because if you haven't, what are you doing here? Yeah, you should go and read. Like, educate yourself, open a book every now and then, you know what I'm saying? No, I assume that you have read Tyrion VI. Therefore, I say, dear listener, let's buckle up and prepare for this new, what do you call it? New ride. New roller coaster ride. Yay! A roller coaster of information. Avalanche of information. I can't seem to come up with a proper metaphorical definition. So anyway, be it as it may, the list of antler men was indeed supplied by Varys in the previous book. But had it been fed to Varys by Littlefinger in the first place? Yeah. Because the creation of fictional debtors who can never be given a good shake, would seem to me as a very creative idea to make some money disappear. Pretend that it exists, but it's really not there. So anyway, while our main man Tyrion is sweating over those accounting ledgers, a summon arrives, and sure enough, it's his father, hand to the king, who wants to see him in his solar office type thing. Solar. It does sound a bit like the sort of place where you go and get a tan, doesn't it? Anyway, so Tyrion waddles his way to Tywin's tanning salon. He always waddles, almost never walks. Jon flexes his sword hand. Tyrion waddles. Sam, plops on chairs and benches. Doesn't sit. Anyway, so he waddles, and then and when he gets there, it's like a family reunion. Here, let me read you the quote. Cersei, Sir Kevan, and Grand Maester Pycelle gathered about Lord Tywin and the king. Joffrey was almost bouncing. Now, I don't think bouncing here should be interpreted as in, at the entrance to a club, oi, sorry mate, can't get in right now. Nah, one out, one in policy at the moment. Yeah, no, he's not been an actual bouncer. He's bouncing with joy, which means that someone else has just been made miserable, knowing Joffrey. So all this commotion is over a parchment, a letter that has just been delivered, sent by Lord Walder Frey, and it's all in a bizarre code word type language, except that it kind of sounds like a nursery rhyme. Roslyn caught a fine fat trout. Her brothers gave her a pair of wolf pelts for her wedding. But of course it's in a code type language, because what if some northerner had taken down that raven with an arrow? That was the sound of an arrow being fired at the raven. Yeah, you don't want, under those circumstances, obviously you don't want the intercepted parchment to say, hi, we just slaughtered Catelyn and Robb Stark at Admiral Tully's wedding. All went well. P.S. Are you interested in a second-hand Iron Crown? Mint conditions. You don't want that sort of parchment to fall in the wrong hands. So, but if it does, at least, make it a nursery rhyme, which I think would arouse other sort of suspicions and questions, because why would you bother to utilize a raven to cross half the continent just for a nursery rhyme? Come on, think about it. Come on, anyone with two brain cells would say, no, 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 no. Okay, look, this is a code. We need to crack it. And by the way, when you do intercept a raven, how do you know? Oh, okay, maybe the parchment will say, to the attention of Lord Tywin Lannister. Maybe that's how you find who the message is intended for. The parchment will say it, I guess. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it? Anyway, so yeah. And just as Tyrion's brains are hard at work trying to crack the above-mentioned code, Joffrey, who just loves to spoil the fun for others, it just gives him the bottom line. Yep, Robb Stark is indeed no more. Ha ha. This war seems to be on the verge of being won, once and for all, but Tywin is not complacent. Oh, no, no, no. Sorry, let me just bear with me a second. I think I'm going to turn off the AC, because for no other reason than the background noise. So, yeah, Tywin is not complacent. Where did I leave the book? All right, okay, okay, so basically two kings are now out of the equation, Balon Greyjoy and Robb Stark, but somehow, before even turning his thoughts on the third king, Stannis Baratheon, Tywin's immediate concerns are on the Riverlands. He's confident, you see, that Brynden Tully will not mount an attack against the twins, as long as his nephew, Admiral Tully, is held captive there by the Freys. So the only possible threats are Jason Mallister, who will keep the Frey army busy off Seaguard, and Titus Blackwood. Except that there's a plan at work for him too, because whenever there's a Blackwood, it is well known, there's always a Bracken ready to and willing to fight him. In this case, Jonas Bracken. We'll see how this thing develops in later books. In the meantime, Sir Gregor Clegane has been dispatched to Harrenhal to rid the castle of the bloody mummers, which, if you remember, fulfills a prophecy we heard from the Ghost of High Heart in Arya 8, when she said, "In the Hall of Kings, the goat sits alone and fevered as the great dog descends on him." Yeah. Ba, ba, ba. Yeah, and Tyrion predicted it. It's like, look, because Tywin was going on about the, how he wanted to grant pardons and castles and things, and then all except one, and Tyrion already knew, Harrenhal, because I mean, of course, it was a folly to promise. Now, let me see if I remember correctly. At some point, Harrenhal was given to Janos Slynt, which enraged Tyrion at the time, you will remember, because he said, no, that is way too valuable and prestigious, even though it's haunted. But that castle is too prestigious to just give it to a nouveau riche, a new money kind of guy like Jason. Not Jason. What did I just call him? Janos Slynt. No way. So, okay, possibly Littlefinger. Yeah, okay, yeah, because he served us well. Just wait and see, Tywin. But anyway, so yeah. Tyrion immediately predicted that Tywin would rectify the whole thing of, what, Harrenhal infested by the bloody mummers? No, the world will be better once rid of that scum of the earth. Ha! I mean, who in their sane minds would ever dream of hiring such ruthless and psychopaths? Oh, right, that's right, me. Anyway, so yeah. So and Tyrion is also thinking, well, I mean, good job sending Gregor Clegane to to decimate the Bloody Mamas, send a monster to deal with these other monsters. But really, Gregor Clegane himself, unless I'm very much mistaken, really he's also living on borrowed time, because sooner or later he'll be turned to the Dornishmen, as the actual hitman who physically killed Oberyn's sister Elia, even though really that murder was bought and paid for by Tywin. So yeah, there's once again, all these arrows, all these threads on your corkboard connect to Tywin. Imagine yourself like some kind of a investigator in the very cliche riddled or a word like that, filled those cop shows filled with cliches. That's it. And you're connecting, pictures with pins and threads and things on a corkboard, and sure enough, every single bloody thread connects to Tywin, including the murder, the horrible murder of Elia Martell, which will be fleshed out in more detail later on in this very chapter. Okay. Oh, and that parasite. This is still Tyrion thinking. That parasite, Peter Baelish. That naughty boy, that proper naughty boy, you know what I'm saying? That little finger guy, wherever he happens to be, he will be able to claim the whole castle as his own without so much as a spot of blood on his designer clothes. But if the gods were good, his ship would have sunk on its way to the Vale. Oh yeah, that's right, that's where he's supposed to be headed, the Vale. But is he really? Is he really? Except that we've just learned that the gods aren't good. Tyrion is thinking, because not exactly. I mean, look at Sansa, praying every day. What good did that do to her? What good did that do her? Did they listen? No. And Tyrion here is interrupted in his thoughts when Joffrey chooses this moment to go full psycho on the council. He goes, nah. What's this story about pardons and castles and this and that and bribes? Whoa. No, I want everybody dead, not breathing. I want their families dead. All of the Blackwoods, the Brackens, the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers, everybody dead. Joffrey. Oh, and you know what? Joffrey's on a roll at this moment. He's unstoppable. You know what? I also want Walder Frey to mail me the head of Robb Stark so I can put it on a spike. Or maybe wear it as a keyring. Joffrey. Oh, actually, no, even better. I'll serve it to Sansa at my wedding feast and then get her to kiss it. Yay! They're just dancing around like, oh my god, life is so good. He's getting more imaginative by the minute. But Cersei pretends it's a joke. Joffrey, you do say the darnest things. No, Mum, no, I mean it. But Tyrion won't have none of that. No, he goes, no, all right. First of all, Sansa is now your aunt, being married to me and all. And second, she's no longer yours to torment, you monster. In fact, I'd be careful, actually, if I were you, because kings are dying like flies at the moment. So, there, say no more. Dear listener, remember all these threats Tyrion is making here, because they will be filed and maybe used against him in a future chapter. Say no more. Anyway, predictably, both Joffrey and Cersei throw a fit at these threats because, Joffrey saying, I should have your tongue chopped off for that. And Cersei going, how dare you speak to my son, the king, with that insolent tone, you imp, and yada, yada, yada. And I should probably say at this point that these dialogues are slightly paraphrased. But yeah, so this is where Tywin tries to talk some sense into Joffrey. Well, whatever passes for sense in Tywin's, head or vision of the world. And he goes, yeah, tell you what, mate, you know who you remind me of, I want Rob's head on a spike, I want this, I want that, no pardons, I want to kill everyone, kill them all. You know who you remind me of? Aerys Targaryen. Yeah, he too kept going on about his birthright, his privilege, and how he could do whatever he wanted because he was the king, and then he went on chopping off people's tongues left and right. Reminding everyone that he was the king. All right. If you happen to be one of those fans of Tywin out there, I know there are a lot of those out there. So, although I can't personally think I ever really warmed up to him, But yeah, if that's the case, you will probably want the actual quote to do him justice, I suppose. So here it is. Joffrey, when your enemies defy you, you must serve them steel and fire. When they go to their knees, however, you must help them back to their feet. Elsewise, no man will ever bend the knee to you. And any man who must say, "I'm the king," is no true king at all. He's a cringe. He's not a king. That's my own addition. Aerys never understood that, but you will. When I've won your war for you, we will restore the king's peace and the king's justice. The only head that need concern you is Marjorie Tyrell's maidenhead. There. Okay, now that is quoted verbatim. Okay. Although before we move out of the topic of Ilyn Payne and his tongue, yeah, because he said, earlier on he said, yeah, I mean the guy, Aerys, he just it was out of control. I mean, and whenever someone displeased him, he would just chop that guy's tongue off. And we just ask Ilyn Payne. In pain. Oh my God! I just got it now. I mean, okay, pain. Yes, all right, of course, yes, pain. Yeah, I got that. But in pain. Okay, never mind. Moving on. So yeah, you could ask Sir Ilyn Payne, except you won't get much of a reply out of him because he ain't got no tongue. But we should remind ourselves that Aerys did have Ilyn's tongue out because of what he said about Tywin, namely that the Tywin was more competent and really in charge of things than the king ever was, really, as a hand to the king. And he was the actual person in charge of the Seven Kingdoms in all but name. The real power behind the throne kind of trope. So yeah. But anyway, what Tywin has just said is an important quote, actually, because it became part of it became a sort of like a meme generator when it was adapted in the HBO series, used by various YouTubers as a case study on how to command respect and so on and so forth, especially for what happens next, because Joffrey gets all incensed and defiant and he goes, yeah, well, whatever. You speak of Aerys Targaryen, but it's my father who defeated him. Yeah, because my dad was so awesome, not you. What were you doing while my father was winning all the battles and making mincemeat of Rhaegar Targaryen? Ha! Hiding under Castle Rock. That's what you were doing, huh, Grandpa? A strong king acts boldly. He doesn't just talk. What do you say to that, huh? And Joffrey is actually more right than he thinks, considering that his natural father, his actual father, Jaime, did in fact slay King Aerys. So there. Anyway, what Tyrion says to that is simply, "Oh, well, thank you, grandson, for that little lesson in history. Now, it seems to me the king is tired. Pycelle, will you accompany him to his bedchamber, maybe with a sip of the old dream wine?" And I mean, we don't see that on the page, and they did their best to plausibly adapt this dialogue on screen for the HBO series, but for a guy to calm down a psychopathic adolescent like Joffrey, who has already reached his boiling point on top of that, to calm him down simply by speaking those few words, I mean, it must take a certain amount of terrifying charisma, the voice at the right pitch, all those things. In fact, George R. Martin here describes Tywin's tone as carrying a glacial courtesy. A courtesy, let me read that for you. A courtesy so cold it was like to freeze everyone's ears off. And immediately after that, Joffrey accepts to be escorted out by Kevin, all meek like, Okay, come on, nephew, let's go. You heard the man. And Pycelle trotting after them. And Joffrey still protesting feebly. I don't wanna... But going nonetheless. So yeah, it must have been effective, huh? And I must say, while I don't exactly fall in the Tywin is awesome camp, to have that gift or skill, would come dead handy, I'll tell you, Being able to shut people up by uttering a simple sentence along the lines of, make yourself scarce, will you? Because that's essentially what Tywin just said. All right, yeah, off you go. And that's a king he's talking to, technically. And even Cersei, keeps apologizing, in the customary way you would expect mothers to apologize. Oh, he can be a bit stubborn sometimes, but he's a really adorable little kid, really. He's got a heart of gold. Right. Tywin is still unimpressed. A strong king must be bold. Who filled his head with such rubbish? And the general consensus seems to be that who filled Joffrey's head with that rubbish was none other than his dad, the late King Robert, even though father and son didn't exactly see eye to eye. And that tragic cat incident is brought up again. That day when, after learning a kitchen cat was pregnant, Joffrey, who I think was still a toddler at the time, killed the animal and cut open its belly, her belly, because she's so pregnant is her, right? Yeah, right. To take a peek at the kittens inside, fetuses, feti. And he showed one of the unborn kittens to his father. Oh, look. And Robert was so shocked and enraged that he hit Joffrey so hard he knocked out 2 of his baby teeth. So yeah, that's clearly an overreaction, but yeah. Huh. So anyway, that whole story, Cersei, she brings it up again. She goes, yeah, even though Robert was violent to him, he once knocked two of Joffrey's baby teeth out just for some mischief or other with a cat. That's how she dismisses the story. Some mischief or other with a cat. Yeah, that's right, Cersei. And I suppose that the Red Wedding could be defined as very questionable table manners. Yeah, is that your type of your kind of like euphemism? Meanwhile, Tyrion, of course, doesn't miss the opportunity to remind Tywin of that bit about him hiding at Casterly Rock, because he loves stirring a little, hatred between among his family members. He goes, yeah. He almost did sound like Robert, when he talked about your old Sun Tzu art of war type strategy of hiding and waiting to see who's winning before choosing a side. Yeah, it did sound like, another Robert. Well, Tywin is all annoyed at that. It's not like I eventually came out of my castle and for the battles I fought only to seat Robert II on the throne, Huh. Robert II? Ares III, more like. At which point Cersei also leaves, dismissed by Tywin. And we always, every time Cersei turns around and leaves, we always hear the rustling of her gown. There's always this kind of sound. Always picture it, yeah, because it's always there. Have you noticed? Sorry. And so yeah, she leaves the room, and and this is when Tyrion notices that his father is actually more upset than he was showing just a minute earlier. So finally alone, Tyrion doesn't waste a minute telling his father that he now understands what was meant by some wars are won by quills and ravens, you know? All the way back in Tyrion 1, this same book, when as you know, as Tyrion now realizes, his father was indeed in the process of plotting the Red Wedding with Roose Bolton by composing letters, you know, quills and ravens, with Roose Bolton, with Walder Frey, of course, and who knows who else. And of course, the first and most important thing he wants to know is whether Cersei was in the loop. Because he himself, Tyrion, he certainly was not. But that's okay, as long as Cersei wasn't informed either. I mean, seriously? This sibling rivalry goes as far as that, really. It's all right to have been told nothing of this conspiracy, as long as Cersei wasn't told either. No. The long and short of it being that Tywin didn't tell any members of his family, and Tyrion in particular, because Tyrion has the reputation of having a loose tongue, okay? Especially after a few drinks. Anyway, which is not entirely inaccurate. Anyway, moving on. What to do about this pain in the ass Oberyn Martell, huh? If only his brother, Prince Doran, was here. Because at least he, unlike Oberyn, he's a cautious man, a reasoned man. Here, I'm reading here verbatim. Subtle, deliberate, even indolent to a degree. He's a man who weighs the consequences of every word and every action. Let's remember all these qualifiers, you know, all these character traits attributed to Prince Doran for later chapters. We haven't met him yet, but we will. In later books, actually, we will, of course. You know, there's the entire Dornish section of Feast for Crows, which I remember fondly. Let's see how I feel about it on this reread. So Tywin and Tyrion have a little chat on this Oberyn Martell guy and the fact that he's murmured to have tried to raise Dorne in favor of Viserys Targaryen as a king of Westeros, which, you know, if you ask me, Dorne and Westeros really dodged a bullet there. But anyway. And something interesting comes out of this chat, because Tywin goes on to explain on how a visit from the late Jon Arryn calmed everything down, apparently. So what Jon Arryn, this was way back, okay? After, you know, a year into Jon Arryn's tenure as hand to King Robert. So he went to Dorne, right? And what Jon Arryn and the Martell brothers talked about, nobody knows. But let me read you a quote from Oberyn himself. In the previous Tyrion POV chapter, he goes, Jon Arryn, there you go. Jon Arryn came to Sunspear the year after Robert took the throne, and you can be sure that he was questioned closely. Him and 100 more. Okay, it's because he had a retinue. I did not come for some mummer's show of an inquiry. I came for justice for Elia and her children, and I will have it. Starting with this lummox Gregor Clegane, but not, I think, ending there. Before he dies, the enormity that rides will tell me whence came his orders. Please assure your Lord Father of that. Aha, you see? So now that's interesting, because now we know the purpose of Jon Arryn's visit to Dorne at the time, which was to return the remains of the Dornish member of the King's Guard, Prince Lewin Martell. Incidentally, father to Doran, Elia, and Oberyn. Remember the story in Jaime 5 when Jaime recalls Lewin Martell leading a 10,000 strong Dornish army marching up the King's Road at King Aerys's order. When Jaime describes, how every single member of the Kingsguard was out of town, leaving just him to guard King Aerys, and the rest is history. Anyway, so what Jon Arryn might have said to the Martells, I think I can sort of guess. I mean, I suppose it might have gone something like, "Hey, look, mate. All right, look, guys. I know you guys want justice for your sister Elia, but hey, rising an army to topple the current king, isn't the right way to go about it. Why don't you drop the whole thing, and I'll give you a couple of names in exchange, yeah? Gregor Clegane, Amory Lorch, you didn't hear it from me. There, that's my guess, okay? That's my guess of what that conversation might have sounded like 15 or 16 years ago. Well, look, this is Tyrion. Tyrion goes, yeah, well, look, father, there's no beating around the bush with that Oberyn. This is Tyrion's evaluation of the situation. He goes, he's not going to be content just with the head of Gregor Clegane's. Yeah, well, too bad, because we're not even giving him that one. Whoa. I can see a problem there. You see, he happens to know that Clegane is the one who committed those atrocities against Elia Martell and her children. No, and at which point Tywin just goes, no, you see, no, you don't know nothing. He don't know nothing, just gossip. Sir, Gregor Clegane to you is the most formidable weapon we have, and he's not going to get his hands on the Oberyn is not going to get his hands on the mountain. All right? Okay. So how exactly are we to serve him justice? I'm glad you asked, you see, because, yeah, I'll tell him that Emery Lorch was the actual guilty party, which is really handy, actually, considering that Vargo Hoat has already fed him to a bear in Harrenhal. Yeah, I just laughed at a guy being devoured alive by a brown bear, but yeah, come on, Emery Lorch, come on. So yeah, it kind of works like Russian dolls here. Vargo Hoat dispatches Emery Lorch. Gregor Clegane dispatches Vargo Hoat. Circle of life. What are you going to do? The bear. You remember that when Jaime jumps into the arena to try and defend himself and Brienne from that same bear, all he finds as a weapon is a human jawbone with some greenish flesh still clinging to it, crawling with maggots. Yep, that's all that's left of the late Amory Lorch in the arena, because Bart had him for dinner. That's right, Bart the bear in the HBO series. This bear was performed by Bart II, actually, because there were two historical bears in Hollywood, Bart, and this is Bart II, who had a stellar career in movies. Look it up. Anyway, so Tyrion is covering all angles here. Okay, so Emery Lorch dead. He's the one who did it. Yeah, very convenient. I get that. But what if Oberyn demands to know who gave the order to neutralize the Targaryen children along with their mother? Yeah, about that. Tywin has an answer for that. Tywin has a whole series of very poor answers, in my opinion. Yeah, he was acting on his own accord, Yeah, what do you call it? Freelancing. That's right, he was freelancing. That's it. Wow, that's like so plausible, yeah? Well, at least I can see one advantage to that, says Tyrion. That at least he's not going to deny the story because he's dead. But if you don't mind me asking, why did you order that gruesome murder anyway? Why couldn't you let Robert do it? If he, if he felt so threatened by mini Targaryens, potential claimants to the throne. And Tywin just reacts like, "What are you, stupid, man? What are you, stupid?" We had to do some grand gesture, to prove that we were loyal to King Robert. We'd been waiting out in Casterly Rock, like Joffrey just said, without exactly, without lifting a finger to help anyone until the very last minute. So we had to prove that, once Robert marched, was ready to march on King's Landing, we had to prove that we were loyal to him. And you know how it is, nothing spells out loyalty like murdering a couple of children. Yeah. Still, pity about Elia Martell, I think she could have been spared. This is still Tywin, following his own train of thought. The only reason Gregor Clegane did what he did was because I forgot to tell him that she could live, that Elia Martell could live. That, at least, is what Tywin claims, if you can believe it. Yeah, well, I don't know. And then he goes on to say he didn't really know what kind of beast he had sent to do the job, with Amory Lorch, who ended stabbing what kind of beasts, because both Clegane and Lorch are shall we say, fit the definition of beasts, because Amory Lorch ended stabbing the girl Rhaenys like 50 times, and Gregor Clegane, who assaulted Elia Martell and took her by force, and non-consensual intercourse. I don't think you're supposed to use the R word on the internet. Took her by force and before ending her life. I mean, surely Tyrion. He goes on to say, Tywin goes on to say, well, oh, come on, Tyrion. Surely you wouldn't think your own father would be capable of issuing such an order with the R word clearly spelt on it. I don't think so. To which Tyrion could simply reply, what about Tysha? Huh? You motherfucker, beep! But no, he says nothing. He just lets it go, lets it slide. Which I think is missing a good opportunity to show his father that he's full of shit. But there you go. So Tywin goes, yeah, the blood is all on those guys' hands, Yeah. And you're totally innocent, I suppose, says the little thought bubble in Tyrion's head. And once again, he doesn't voice his thoughts. In fact, all he says is, okay, so what about Robb Stark? How did it end for that guy? Oh, yeah, Robb. An arrow killed him. And 2 more. And a sword through the heart. What about Catelyn Stark? Well, the message said 2 wolf skins, so yeah, she's also gone. According to the initial plan, Waldor was meant to keep her captive, but something must have gone wrong, I suppose. See, there's a whole backlog of correspondence that Tywin is quoting from, which went on off screen, but he uses this to reiterate that, yeah, even Catelyn's blood is not on his hands. Oh, no. Which I beg to differ, but anyway. So Tywin's argument here is what sparked a lot of philosophical debates through the years. He goes, look, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. Otherwise, we would have alienated the old fool Walder Frey, and the war would have continued for another couple of years. Instead, look, by simply killing a dozen people at a feast, we contained the Stark threat once and for all, saved thousands of lives in the process, when you think about it. So there. So this is the philosophical, the debate, which, okay, as philosophy of morality arguments go, I mean, if we're prepared to ignore the fact that no, thousands of people did die at the Red Wedding, because we shouldn't forget the armies camped outside the twin castles, who were casually slaughtered and set on fire in the tents. I mean, okay. But apart from that, from a utilitarian point of view, a strictly mathematical principle of how many people suffered with this move and how many people would have suffered if the war had gone on for a couple years longer, I guess one could say that the argument does make a degree of sense. Also, one might want to consider the fact that in battle, an opposing army has a better chance to fight back. So yeah, it still is a major cowardly move, the Red Wedding, any way you slice it. But okay, moving on. So Tywin next moves on to give us some more Lannister plans for the future. He goes, okay, now Riverrun is now earmarked to be given to Aemon Frey, who is Tywin's sister, Tywin's sister's Jenna's husband, Aemon Frey. Remember Cleos Frey, who was escorting Jaime back to King's Landing along with Brienne, and then died a slapstick death? Yeah, Cleos was Aemon's and Jenna's son. We'll encounter these two, Aemon and Jenna, this comedic duo in A Feast for Crows. Aemon all obsessed with his newly acquired castle, he'll keep going, be careful with my castle, don't use heavy war machinery around my castle, you'll ruin the walls of my castle. And his wife Jenna going, oh, will you shut up about the bloody castle this, bloody castle that. Yeah, I'm fond of this couple, this comedic duo. At least that's how I remember the dialogue. I might be, misquoting it. Okay, so more Lannister planning. Besides, okay, there still remains Brynden Tully, aka the Blackfish, to reckon with, because he's holding Riverrun at the moment, even though the actual Lord of Riverrun, Edmure, is currently a captive at the Twins. Anyway, moving on. The next plans involved some marriages, like Lancel Lannister, Kevan's son. And then there's this Devon Lannister, son of Stafford, who was killed at the Battle of Oak's Cross by none other than Rickard Karstark back in A Clash of Kings. Anyway, this Davin happens to be Tywin's first cousin, although really, since Tywin married his own cousin Joanna, who happens to be Davin's sister, well, then the two guys are also brothers-in-law. Does that make sense? Anyway, both these two guys, Devon and Lancel, are now meant to marry Frey girls, to cement the union of the two houses. Also, a certain Joy is mentioned, who apparently is to wed a natural son of Waldor from House Frey once she is older. We have no more information about this mysterious Joy. But the real explosive news is this. Roose Bolton will be marrying his son Ramsay to, drumroll, Arya Stark. Ha! That's right. See, do you remember in Jaime 5 when Roose said to Jaime, yeah, no worries, mate. Arya was lost for a bit, but she has been found. And now she's going to be returned safe and sound to the north. Yeah, and then we kept wondering in every subsequent chapter when and if we were going to see some guys on Roose's payroll, capture Arya, considering that Arya's chapters were supposed to take place, way before, in the timeline, which is why there are so many Arya chapters in this book. because eventually, she was supposed to catch up with the other plot lines. Anyway, so yeah, we kept expecting that, didn't we? Someone to snatch Arya off the hands of the Brotherhood without banners first, and then when that didn't happen, then maybe someone would turn up and snatch her off the hands of the Hound. But now the whole timeline is in disarray, because remember, Roose said that to Jaime all the way back in Jaime 5, as I said, before he even set out for the twins, to attend the Red Wedding. And the last time we saw Arya, she was still very much in the company of Sandor Clegane, well after the Red Wedding. So what was Roose Bolton talking about way back in Jaime 5? Clearly, an imposter. This Arya has been found must be a lie. This Arya must be an imposter. I don't think that counts as a spoiler right now. Come on, you can figure it all out with the timeline. And look, Tywin kind of spells it out loud and clear for us readers, because when Tyrion asks him, "Wait, but wasn't Arya Stark dead?" He just replies, "Yeah, well, so was Renly Baratheon, but that didn't stop him from popping up at the Battle of the Blackwater." Which, I mean, if that isn't a clear indication, I mean, in the words of Oberyn Martell's slightly paraphrased words of Oberyn Martell, when he says, "Yeah, if you believe that was really Renly, I mean, you believe anything, mate." See? You see? Come on, it's not Arya. It's not. It's someone posing as Arya. That you can figure out by placing, connecting dots as far as the timeline is concerned. In other words, just to, what do you call it? Just to final nail in the coffin. Roose says to Jaime, Arya has been found way, way, way before the Red Wedding even takes place. And the last time we see Arya, it is during or around the time the Red Wedding takes place, and she is she's anything but found by Roose. So Roose is talking rubbish, okay? There. Wow. That was a very long way to get out of the accusation of giving out spoilers, But George R. R. Martin has given us all the info we need, and they're all, as I said, and they're all in past chapters, not future chapters. Okay. Arya Stark has not been found. Someone is pretending to be Arya Stark, and will be marrying Ramsay. Whoever this woman is, I feel sorry for her. Anyway, so yeah, finally, long-term plan, and this is where Tywin finally refocuses his gaze on Tyrion. Long-term plan, because Tywin has those too. He goes, look, as soon as House Bolton is joined with House Stark, Roose will serve us well in fighting off the Ironborn, who are still occupying, key places in the north. But once that's done, Winterfell will actually go to your son, my son. You go to Tyrion, my son. What son? The son you'll make with Sansa and pronto. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Oh yeah. As soon as I tell her that my family has just slaughtered what was left of her family, yeah, I simply can't fail to seduce her, huh? Yeah, I told you right at the start of this commentary that Tyrion was going to be facing a new challenge, and I guess, yeah, that's it. But really, things could be a lot harder. Life could be a lot more, what's the word? Grim. Think about Sansa, for example. Yeah. Anyway, with that slightly sarcastic remark by Tyrion, this chapter ends. Oh, lovely. Another quasi small council kind of meeting, which is not really, but you get a lot of small council meetings in Tyrion. for now anyway. So, always lots of politics to enjoy reading, and I certainly did enjoy reading this very chapter, and which ends here. And if you made it this far, my dear listener, wow, thank you. Thank you for your patience and interest, I like to think. And if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to do all the things that people do under such circumstances. And what else? I look forward to talking to you again for the next commentary, reading the next chapter, which is another Davos chapter. Yeah, Eyes on Stannis. Look forward to that. And other than that, I can't think of anything else to say. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.